Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking part in today's ADRC Friday Roundtable. My name is Jacqueline Woodluna, and I am an analyst with the ADRC Bureau team at the California Department of Aging. I will be facilitating this meeting today with Program Manager Amanda Price. The rest of the ADRC Bureau team is here today as well, Mylene Ickmat and Lydia Iacono, as well as please welcome some new ADRC Bureau teammates, Hetty Lim, Janice Ho, and Sandra De Silva. Just some logistics to start. If you are dialing in, please dial *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. Chat is enabled for all of you today to share comments with each other during the hour. The live transcript button is on the Zoom toolbar for closed captioning. We are recording this roundtable, and the recording will be available on the ADRC Library tab on the ADRC Partners and Providers website. If you are having technical issues with Zoom, please email adrc@aging.ca.gov. Okay, so with that, let's start with a few quick questions. Can I get a thumbs up that everyone can see the poll or any sort of? Yep, we got it. Okay, great. So poll question 1, what organization are you part of? AAA, ILC, other ADRC partner, other organizations serving LTSS consumers, or other. Okay, now poll question 2, what is your favorite morning beverage? It's kind of late at morning, but still a good question to ask. We have hot iced coffee, juice, water, tea, or other. Great. Well, it looks like everyone who's here has answered. So I'm going to end the poll and I will share the results. All right, for the question 1, it looks about 58% of our participants, or more than half, are AAA from the AAAs, and another 25% is ILC, and then about almost equal for the other partners of their organizations serving adults with disabilities and other. Okay, now to the good question. All right, looks like we like coffee. And I agreed. About 7% of us enjoy coffee. I do wonder what the other would be. If anyone feels like posting that in the chat, I'd love to know. But yes, water is always good too, hydration. Okay, I'm going to close that. See if anyone, oh, Red Bull. Someone said Red Bull. I guess that's caffeine. So it all makes sense here. All right. Now I'll hand off to Amanda to provide more background on today's topic. Thank you all for participating in the poll.
Thanks, everyone. Hello, good to see you all. We love Roundtable days. These are Roundtable Fridays now at this point. Just wanted to share our kind of brief agenda. So today, as always, it's really about learning from each other on topics that you all address in the kind of local ADRC world. And if you're part of an organization and may wish to start an ADRC partnership, please let us know. We're happy to assist as you're looking at getting that going. You can email adrc@aging.ca.gov anytime, or even just put your name in chat and we can follow up with you. So today we will continue the ADRC Roundtable series about partnerships, and today's focus is on the area agencies on aging. So thank you quickly just to our panelists and our moderator today, who we will welcome shortly. Thanks to the Mother Lode ADRC for sharing more about a promising practice that has worked well. I think actually 2 that's worked well for their partnership. And at the end, just like we did last time, there will be time to just do more informal connection. So kind of towards about 11:50, we'll start that part. So if you have another meeting to get to, please log off at that time. And then we'll kind of stay on until about 12:15 today. So with that, I'd like to welcome our first speaker today, Chris McCoy, who's the ADRC Program Manager with the ADRC of the Mother Lode. And Chris will be sharing a couple of promising practices today. Chris, welcome and thank you. I will be sharing your slides. So Chris, just kind of let me know when you're ready for me to move to the next slide and I'll advance it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you everybody for your time today and for allowing me to speak about our 2 promising practices that we did submit last year. Go ahead, Amanda. Thank you. So we submitted 2 promising practices. They are kind of hand in hand, but they are separate because they were significant. Our very first one was our online resource directory. And we submitted that under the No Wrong Door Enhanced Information and Assistance piece. And how is it enhanced? Well, because our consumers can access that resource directory at any time, day or night, when it's convenient for them, outside of our operating hours of 8 to 5. So that makes it enhanced for them, even for their family members who may be sitting with grandma or grandpa, or maybe sitting with their parents, and there's an expression of a need. And so those family members can log into that online resource directory and look up the resources for their counties. Our online resource directory does cover all 5 of the counties that we cover as a AAA, and of course the 4 counties that we cover with our core partner DRAIL in our ADRC of the Mother Lode. So we actually do have resources for Alpine, Amador, Calaveras, Mariposa, and Tuolumne County on our online resource directory. What does our online resource directory provide? Well, it provides consumers, they have access to resources, they have links to the other community-based organizations or agencies, because in our resource directory, there's a hyperlink. If there's a website to go to, then we hyperlinked it. So they can actually go to that agency's website. And then they, of course, they have access to each core partner website. Our website's available on there, and so is DRAIL's. DRAIL has recently redone their website, and it is fantastic. It's very user-friendly. They even have a tab for our ADRC, of course, as we do on our website as the AAA. So it can the consumers can actually access anything and everything that they might need. They'll have access to the resource, their hours of operation, their location, a brief description. They have access to the link to the website, to their website, and then of course they have access to all of our both of our websites. Our second promising practice had to do with a QR code that we actually created for our online resource directory. So we created a QR code, and it is it's on everything that we print regarding our online resource directory. That QR code allows those that have a smartphone or a smart tablet to be able to hold it over that QR code, and it takes that smart device directly to the online resource directory. So how easy is it to access? The consumers can use their smartphone or smart device, iPad, tablet, to scan that QR code. Scanning that QR code takes them straight there. As I just said, the QR code is easy to incorporate into advertising, such as flyers, postcards, and even the back of our business cards. Amanda, if you could advance to the next slide, I'll show some examples of that. So on this next slide, you can see the top corner one is the ADRC, the Mother Lode magnet that we actually have. We hand those out at outreaches. I hand them out at presentations that I do for various groups and organizations. And again, it's got that little QR code down in the bottom corner that any smartphone or tablet can access. We have it on the back of our business card, which is right next to that magnet, that 4x4. It's on the back of all of our business cards for Area 12 Agency on Aging, for the staff members that work in the ADRC. And then of course, the bottom picture is a picture of our resource directory. You can see how user-friendly it is. It's got icons to kind of help them navigate what types of resources they're looking for. And then of course, it has a search bar where they can type anything they want in there, and it will pick up anything within the description of matching that word. So that's our resource directory. The one on the right-hand side, this is what I call the wave of the future. We came up with this idea late last year. We submitted to purchase a few of these. We actually purchased 6, and we call them a kiosk. The nice thing about it, you can see in that picture, it's on a heavy metal stand that rolls, it locks in place, and it goes from a sitting level to a standing level. So it accommodates all individuals. And then, of course, it's a giant touchscreen TV, basically. It's just like your cell phone initially. It's basically a giant Android system. And so we pre-programmed it with our resource directory on it. And so they can come and touch screen and do that search. You can see kind of over on the side, there's a little printer there on the top of a filing cabinet. For those seniors that like to print things, we know we have those seniors that do like paper. So we do have a printer that is hooked up to that kiosk and can print directly from that kiosk. This kiosk is located currently in Amador County at our Amador Senior Center. It's located in our senior center in Tuolumne County. It's located in our ADRC office. It's located in our Area 12 office. And then we also just recently deployed the 5th one out to an agency in Groveland called Southside Community Connections. They now have one. And then the 6th one is getting deployed out to Calaveras Senior Center in June. So each of the senior centers have these. And what the whole purpose of this was to bridge that technology gap with seniors. If we could make something fun and their ability to see how to use that device and see how to work a piece of technology, then that's one step toward them understanding technology and being more comfortable around it. It was also so that we bridge the technology gap for those seniors seniors or disabled that did not have internet access, because we live in a very rural area and we have a lot of seniors and disabled that do not have access to internet. So this gives them a location where they can go and access this on their own if they so desire to do so. Of course, we are still available 8 to 5 and they can call us anytime. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Chris.
This is Elaine. I think this is so great. How much do those things cost, roughly?
So between all told, all said and done, with the screen, the stand and the printer, between $5,000 and $6,000 with shipping.
And then you programmed it, or with, I mean, the fun icons and stuff is just so cool. So
that is actually part of our database. Our database is WellSky, and they actually are the ones that developed our resource directory online. So they're the base behind how it looks and what it looks like. So that's who did that. As far as the kiosk is concerned, yes, it comes pre-programmed with some things, but I program it, I set it up to where when you go to the internet, when you go to Google, it goes straight to our resource directory. And I usually also do a second tab for the location where it's at, so that it goes to their website as well.
nice. Thank you. Awesome.
Chris, thank you. Really quick question too. In terms of maintaining the information in the directory itself, do you do that on a kind of ongoing basis, or does your staff schedule when those updates are made? Just curious.
So actually we do both, Amanda, good question. We actually maintain it on an ongoing basis. If we hear that something has changed, the nice thing about it being in our WellSky database is we can go into WellSky, change it, and it changes live right straight to the resource directory online. But we also do what I call an audit of it every year. So right now we've kind of had it scheduled. We usually do it from about December to March. We go through all of our providers, which right now there's like over 350 providers now in this resource directory. So we go through all of them, we touch base with them, we make sure that we have the most current information, and then we update it within the system. We're probably going to change that time frame to a different time frame because we're finding that December to March is getting really difficult to do because that tends to be our busier time of year with calls. So we'll probably be readjusting when we audit it, but we do audit it once a year as well as maintain it ongoing.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Great. I see some comments in the chat. One of them is from Sonoma, Betsy Harper. Would you be willing, Chris, if we linked you together to talk further about this, if anyone was interested or had further questions?
Absolutely. I will go in the chat box and put in my information.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's great. Really appreciate it. And just a quick plug for promising practices like what Chris has just shared. We typically about every 6 months, we'll do a call for additional promising practices. All of them are posted on the ADRC library page in our partners and providers website. And I think Jackie will be putting that in chat in a moment. So definitely check out what's there. We're using the roundtables to feature a couple of them, and then we'll be doing another call. So think through, again, anything that is helpful to your ADRC that could be shared out is really the goal with that. So thank you. Thank you, Chris. So we will flip now to our next topic, which is a panel of the AAA partners of an ADRC. So as a reminder, state statute requires both an independent living center and an area agency on aging to be core partners at the local level in order to become an ADRC. So we heard last month about the independent living centers, philosophy, operations, and now it's the time to feature the AAA partners. So for today's panel, I actually am so excited to welcome Ellen Schmeeding from the California Commission on Aging. Ellen is the immediate past chair and current member of the CCOA. She was also part of the Area Agency on Aging in San Diego when San Diego started one of the first ADRCs in California. So welcome, Ellen. Also, please welcome our panelists today. So we have Elaine Clark, who just said hi to, Executive Director of the Napa and Solano Area Agency on Aging and the Solano County Emerging ADRC. Clay Kemp, the Executive Director of the Seniors Council Area Agency on Aging of Santa Cruz and San Benito counties and San Benito Designated ADRC. Jewel Lee, Director of Riverside Area Agency on Aging and Riverside Designated ADRC. And Lee Pullen, Director of the Marin Area Agency on Aging and Adult Social Services and of the Marin County Designated ADRC. So as the panel discussion begins, I'll be handing this over now to Ellen and the team. Please post your questions in chat as you have been. So thank you for doing that. And we'll try to kind of get to them towards the end of the panel. So we'll have time for some discussion as well. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm Ellen Schmeeding, and it's a joy to be here today, having been on the journey with ADRCs for many years and really understanding the value they add to the local level. I really thank you so much, Chris, for your prior presentation. I got a lot out of that too. And I think just having as many ways in as possible is really the secret. So I'm going to go ahead and ask questions of our panelists. And then we know that they also may have panelists may have things they'd like to offer, and there'll be time for that too. So let's start off with you, Clay. Great to see you. What is the Area Agency on Aging philosophy and core purpose? What does consumer-driven and person-centered mean to a AAA?
Thanks, Ellen, and really great to see you too. And hi to everybody. So I'm going to do something I never do in presentations, and that's read something. It's an old definition of what an area agency on aging does, and I think it captures what we're about quite well. So it's essentially to provide leadership in addressing issues that relate to older Californians, to develop community-based systems of care that provide services which support independence within California's interdependent society, and which protect the quality of life of older persons and persons with disabilities, and to promote citizen involvement in the planning and delivery of services. So I think that captures it. I also think it's a mouthful. And more simply put, it's to encourage and support on dignity, respect, and independence of those we serve. And if you saw our mission statement as an agency, it's much closer to that. So given that philosophy, how do we go about doing it, and how do we define and really make person-centered services happen? And I think if you look at the traditional models that most agencies function by, it's driven by funding, it's driven by regulations, and it's driven by the data reporting that we all have to do to support those regulations and those funders. And we always design systems that way. So person-centered, it's a pretty common term, and it seems really obvious, but it's strategic if we really want to make it happen. And instead of looking at funding sources and figuring out how do we meet all those requirements, we have to put that aside and just imagine being a consumer of service that needs help and create our own navigation. So if I need help from an agency, what do I want to have happen when I walk into or roll into or phone an agency trying to get help? How many flights of stairs do I have to go up? What floor is the service on? How many turns in a building do I have to make before I get there? Is there signage, et cetera, et cetera? So it's really just thinking from a very practical point of view, what's the best way to serve the community and the end user? And while that seems obvious, I don't think most of our minds automatically go to setting systems up. And we still have to meet all the funding parameters and data collection. But if we build the data collection and regulations around that model of how we actually get the services out there, that to me is what consumer driven is. And I think one of the tools we can use that can be really helpful with that is flip our org charts upside down from time to time. That's a simple exercise, but it's really a good one because we all know, funder or board of directors or governing bodies on top. And then, in ours, I'd probably be next as executive director and then administrative staff and so far. But if we just put consumers of service at the top and then build everything else around them, the org chart might actually end up looking identical in terms of where the arrows are. But the whole mindset you create around that will really start to change, I think, your organizational philosophy. So lots of ways and lots of tools we can do it, but those are the ones that I would recommend. And when I think about this, a lot of our funders and especially government programs are really good at setting up eligibility criteria and determining whether or not somebody is eligible for service. And I think the ILC model and the AAA model and the ADRC models are the opposite of that. We try to be good at meeting the needs of people who need help. And that's another part, I think, of being person-centered. And as part of that, and I'll wrap up, I know we don't have a whole lot of time on here, but I sometimes, I think of ADRCs officially, and I'm supposed to, in this arena, say ADRCs are system navigators. They're supporters of independence and helping people get to where they need to be. But I like to think of it as a lot of funders, a lot of organizations, and a lot of government are really good at setting up massive bureaucracies to get help. And I think of the ADRCs, and probably all of us on this call, as slayers of bureaucracy. If bureaucracy to service is the dragon, the ADRCs are the dragon slayers of the world. And I think that's obviously critical in providing quality service and moving things forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Clay. Would anyone like to add anything, if you can? Okay, well, we'll come back to it. Thank you so much. Jewel, the next question for you. How does someone become a consumer of services? And what is your definition of a consumer?
Thank you, Ellen. And Clay, I am on board. Anything that has to do with Dungeons and Dragons, I'm with you, man. So thank you for that. So how does someone become a consumer at Riverside? As Clay said, we typically define our consumers through funding and regulations. But I'm happy to see that that's expanding now, right? Based on the complex needs of our family, we also have been coming through this, through the area, through the AAA world. We've come across atypical clients. For example, many years ago, we were able to enroll children in childcare through our partnership with First 5 and caregiver support. So in this scenario, in Office on Aging, we always had a small group of children in our case management system, and we knew they belonged there because they were part of the caregiver program. Now, as I've mentioned before, funding has expanded, and so much has changed, kind of going into this similar direction of multi-general and cross-generational funding that supports nutrition, technology, caregiver. So this funding now allows us to define our consumers and using our clients or seniors as the anchor for that household, so that we can expand services to those younger than age 60. And so I would propose that if we look at it from this perspective, then we as ADRCs have the potential to offer services across the lifespan, and that's powerful. In this sense, when we take a look at expanding, then we have to rely on our network and sort of this kind of support in weaving the services. For our consumers, our network then becomes our net worth as an ADRC, right? So I want to go as one last point to look and consider at your service philosophy as an ADRC, right? In Riverside, our strategies and practices, our philosophies define our core. So it directs how our service is delivered, who our partner should be, and then in turn, it flows into whom we can serve, whom this consumer might be. So for a long time, since we started ADRC, our philosophy was service starts at 877. As you can see, I think behind me, there's our 877 number, right? But no longer, because when we shifted to really focus on no wrong door and integration, it's not always at 877. We'll meet our homeless clients at the grocery store, at the motels, or there's no address, there's no home address, right? For care transitions, we're at the hospital. For APS, we have our nutrition in their APS offices. They QR code the bags of food. We don't see our clients. Our APS social workers do the assessment and they get their food right away. So in that sense, it's not always at 877, but it ends up at the 877 case management system, which then feeds our ADRC. So the good news is hopefully we all end up at the same place with our partner. So kind of lastly, to wrap that up, how do we define our clients? For Riverside, when we know who they are, whether it's through our network or social workers in-house or out, when we know who they are, when we know what they need, when we know how services can be delivered and when it should be delivered, that defines our fence post for consumers. And you'll find as an ADRC that you're going to continue to contract and expand that fence post. But again, the power is and our worth is in our network. So I'll end there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Once again, all roads lead back to you. Fabulous. Oh, any other comments? I'm getting fired up by ADRCs all over again. Now, Elaine, why is having a AAA as a core partner so critical to the vision for California ADRCs?
Well, I think what I want to do is say, listen to Clay again and Jewel again, because really, it's all about collaboration and it's understanding who it is that we serve and what we're trying to do. And I think AAAs have been doing that since the beginning. We're really good at that. We do that with our area plan. We do that by, which by the way, I'm sure everybody turned in today. We do that with our advisory councils that have been, that are out at our community members, right? And so the philosophy of a AAA is to reach out and understand what the needs are within the community, build relationships, and then create services to meet those needs and think ahead, right? And how can we do more with less? So I think that foundational kind of learnings that each of our AAAs, I think, operate from, that sets us up then for understanding that we need to change and to meet the ongoing and changing needs of folks. The nature of what we do is to build bridges and to understand that the social determinants of health are part of, a big part of what leads to the overall health, right, of the community. So we've been building those systems for many years, and we continue to do that. And the ADRC then allows us to expand beyond just the folks that we normally see. The other thing about ADRCs and the AAAs, I think, is that AAAs, at least in and we're an emerging, so we're still learning. I'm learning how to work together with my ILRC, right? I've had a relationship with this person for many years, thank goodness. So now it's learning how to work together. And it's interesting because we, as the AAA, we have a lot more structures in place. We've had to. And so I'm bringing along our ILC partner with some of these internal structures and these and kind of mandates that we've had to live by. Then I can share some of those best practices with her, and it's actually strengthening her ILC. And from her, I'm learning that, there's a whole group of people that we didn't really reach that we should have been. And so together, we're opening up some really kind of interesting and exciting opportunities for the two of us. But I think the other thing that the AAAs bring is that we have a lot of connections with county entities and different departments within counties that even the nonprofits, I think, because they've had to work with different county partners, the E&E and the social workers. So we already have a lot of built-in relationships that are allowing us to move a bit more quickly than we probably would have if we were starting from scratch. And what I'm seeing from my ILC partner is, hey, Elaine, don't forget about this. Or, I can bring ideas and clients situations to her, and then we have a really good, robust conversation. So I think, we both bring things to the table, but what the AAAs bring, I think, is a sense of there's a lot of forward strategy. We have more funding, so we're a little more stable. So I think we can plan a little better. We have more time to plan. And we can do that, and we can try some things that maybe they couldn't have tried without us, simply because we have a little bit more oomph behind the organization itself. So I think there's and then we also have, I don't want to discount this, we have a very strong C4A group. So executive directors, we meet, we have conversations, we meet in small groups. Then we also have the planners group that meets and is a robust group. And we have strong connections to CDA. So with all of that, I mean, you can't downplay that. So we have these connections already built in, and that, strengthens what the AAA brings to the table. So those are kind of my initial thoughts.
Okay, any other comments from the panel? I think AAAs have been seen as a core partner. I really agree with you, Elaine. A lot of it's the relationships that built over years, just what you brought to the table by knowing the ILC director and being able to, skip a lot of that relationship building. right to the partnership. Congratulations. Okay, all right, Lee, I've got a long question for you. Hopefully you've got it in front of you. How do you ensure your ADRC is strategic? Have you done any strategic planning or developed a long-term business plan that helps your partnership with decision-making and making sure that you're meeting the needs of the community?
Thank you, Ellen. Good to see you. Appreciate having an opportunity to speak this morning. And I think that the theme that we're hearing from our colleagues on this panel, two things: bridging those relationships and being consumer focused, along, I guess, with Clay, but bringing a shield and a sword at the same time as we do our work. Some days it certainly feels like that's necessary, doesn't it? When I saw this question, I first went, oh no, a strategic plan. Did we need to do that too? Because it seems like for our ADRC, we are so busy and so much in the community and so connected to so many other organizations. We actually have not done a formal strategic plan. But let me back up. And that doesn't mean that it would not be good, particularly I think if you're an emerging ADRC, or if you do have a lot of relationships to build and so forth, just so there's understanding from each side of the ILC side and the AAA side. I would be remiss if I didn't give some accolades to my colleague, Elijah Lardon, who serves as the director of our Independent Living Center, and has just been a great partner. And it certainly does help. He and I have worked together for many, many years before we started formulating an ADRC, and so have our staff. So I think that is just incredibly key. I imagine in your areas, your AAAs and your counties, whether you're small, medium, or large, it's the same people at the table every time doing the work. So this is what we find, and we as an ADRC are just so much connected to our broader local network. And so I'm just speaking to what our local needs are and how we work. And of course, you all are going to want to do that in your own local communities as well. But even predating our ADRC, we had a strong aging network collaboration that Eli is on the steering committee, along with me. We've recently done another study across our county looking at how the county itself can better serve older adults and people with disabilities. And there is a new organization forming in Marin called the Marin Aging and Disability Institute, of which our Independent Living Center is one of the two basic owners of that. And our ADRC is going to be integrated into that work. And so that's where our strategic planning has happened, is how to, in our community, elevate disability. Actually, we think we've done really well with aging and our collaboration and our networking that we have built over the last decade. But now in conversations that we've had this past year for our ADRC is, are we doing enough? We're very consumer oriented, and we're bringing in more folks, focus on people with intellectual and other developmental disabilities. So it's just not people with other physical disabilities. And so a lot of strategy has been coming around that, how to elevate both aging and disability in our community and make those connections. And we have now just recently, in the last 9 months, formed a disability coalition, bringing sort of a business to business, bringing together the different CBOs and others who work in that space. So good stuff there. I will just lastly say that I think it's, you gotta have the rigor in this, and the way we have it structured between our AAA and our ILC. Of course, our protocols and all of that were put into place a long time ago, but we have the intentionality that we have our quarterly leadership meetings of staff from both organizations. We then have our quarterly advisory committee meetings, where much of the information we get from all these other networks around what's happening out there that we may be missing. So our advisory committee has several people who work directly in the field of practice. And then our staff come together on a weekly basis to review cases and other situations that are coming into our one door ADRC. So that's how we're operating. I hope that was helpful, Ellen. And just a follow-up, I'm welcome to hear it.
Excellent, excellent. Any comments from the panel on anything you've heard? I'm particularly interested in knowing how you get that consumer voice. What are the ways that happens in your region? Making sure you're meeting the needs that are evolving and changing.
If I may answer, I would say It is, we've had consumers, excuse me, on our advisory committee so that we are hearing directly from them. I think a challenge that we have experienced, and I think that maybe many of you have as well sometimes, is there was a lot of demand placed upon consumers in their daily lives. So having that longevity of someone being able to come to the meetings and stick with us has been a bit of a hurdle, but we would be at a place if we weren't hearing directly from those consumers, along with, as I said, all the professionals doing the direct care work.
This is Elaine. I also want to say that along with that, we're developing our advisory committee, but Touro University, a local university, has offered to do some modeling and surveys and pre and post and long-term is what the effectiveness of our AAA. I'm working with them right now on creating that set of criteria. So I'm really excited about that. It's not only going to be for consumers, but another set of that will be the service providers that are going to be connected to our ADRC once we're fully operational. What will the differences that they will experience? What will those look like? And then we'll together, all of us, talk about those outcomes and what we need to do to change and improve. So that goes back to, again, the AAA strength. The county already had a relationship with Touro University. So when I talk about what we're doing internally, public health put me in touch with them and we got this off the ground. So it's another strength of the AAA, and I'm excited about this new work that's going to be done so we can help measure outcomes.
Great.
And if I could jump in just to add to both Lee and Elaine's comments, I think one of the things we do is we go to everything. We try to have, we don't have a very big staff, but we try to make sure that in any place where the people we serve have a voice, that we're in the room. Either we're a member of a long-term care commission or we attend a seniors commission meeting, whether we're members or not, and just try to make sure that we're constantly hearing from the users of our service and also from our service provider network, which is often a better source. And then I also wanted to follow up on Lee's comment, because Lee was saying, oh, I don't have a plan, I need to do this, etc. And then went on to describe all the ways that he's constantly planning and constantly seeking input and strategizing about how to provide service. And I think that's probably true of all of us, that's just kind of in our blood, that we're always looking and hearing that input from the community about where unmet needs are, or better yet, why don't you do this? That's always a great comment to hear. 90% of the time we're already doing the why don't you do this, but nevertheless, it validates either that we're doing the right thing, or there's those 10% of the times where it's like, yeah, why don't we do this? And I got one today when Chris made the comment. It's something that I think about, but that whole thing, the question of how do we make things consumer user friendly or centered, make it fun. That's a really big way to do it. And if we design our systems so they're pleasant and enjoyable, people are more likely to come back to them or come to them for the first time. So I think that strategy comes from everywhere, and also the feedback as well. It's not just a survey, and we all do surveys, which is kind of the formal part of it. But I mean, we strategize our agency so much that my staff and I sometimes, before surveys go out, we will try to make what we think the top 10 list will be in order, and then bet lunch on who gets the most of them right or something.
Excellent. All right. Well, any final comments before we turn to our audience and see what they'd like to ask? Jewel.
I do have one comment, and that speaks to kind of strategizing. I think as an ADRC, and this is from my own kind of learning curve, right? I thought if I have an ADRC, I got to make sure that everyone knows about us, everyone has to know about Office on Aging. And that's true from a referral perspective, so that our network can refer to us, etc. But I think we also have to be cognizant of being strategic in our partnership. And sometimes that's actually driven by the crises in our community. So part of being strategic then is having the right core committed partners that'll get you and your community, or whatever it is that we need to stand up for that moment, for that period of time. And maybe that could be 24 months. And then we move on to that next crisis, if you will, or whatever that strategic opportunity might be. So I think I just want to qualify, if you will, that as a network, we have to outreach, and we have to be well known so that people can know the services and be a resource. But strategically speaking, we got to find our core partners.
Right. And being flexible so that you can modify as the need arises. Lee, were you ready to add something?
Yes, thank you, Ellen. Just to that, well, flexibility is the key there. And there's 2 points I just wanted to make for those who are emerging or those who are interested. At your director level, please keep those connections strong and frequent. It really does set the tone for the staff and all the service that can be delivered. And look at what is going to work better for your model. For instance, in Marin, the contract with CDA is not from my office, it's from the Independent Living Center, because strategically we thought they're a little more nimble than we are as a county. And so I think that's kind of helped facilitate things. So, thank you.
Great. All right, well, thank you all so much. Let's hear what our audience may have to offer.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Please raise your hand or just unmute with any additional questions or comments. I keep coming back to slaying bureaucracy and flipping your org chart. I love those that Clay brought those up in the beginning. Thank you. Any thoughts? Also, I wanted to kind of do a time check for all of us. It's 11:48. For those of you who may need to move to your next meeting, please feel free to log off anytime. Really, we'll kind of move into now our more informal part of the roundtable. So just feel free, pop on in.
It doesn't look like there's anything in the chat, just letting you know. So I'll stop spotlighting our panel if there's no more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you to Ellen, Elaine, Clay, Julie. I really appreciate it. It's really nice to also hear, especially if you're able to listen to the recording of the ILC roundtable just to hear the similarities and the differences in the way that each of the core partners operate and then how they operate together. So yeah, thank you. So again, yeah, we will probably stop recording now for our